Okay. I guess whatever happens, happens.
Whatever happens, happens. In a world ravaged by the console wars, where the wandering hordes of degenerate fanboys destroy any chance of reasonable discourse, two bros stand in the gap, beating down backlogs and breaking the accursed cycle of hype. They are the Backlog Breakdown, and they're here to issue a firm settle down.
Settle down.
Settle down.
Settle down. There are only 100 video games that are good in the world that you should play. Settle down.
Settle down. Well, yeah, that's actually, there's probably way more than 100 great games.
Yes.
But
yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at.
yeah. But this is our 100 bestest games of all times, and some of them we haven't even played. The actual, but we might get into the origin story of the top 100 list at some point. I mean, if you've been listening for any period of time, we've been doing this for a year or two now.
Yeah. This is the third revision.
Third revision. I think we're probably going to try and maybe revisit this just in June to sort of see where we're at again. See if we have any additions then. But yeah, this episode we're going to be taking a look at the official Backlog Breakdown top 100 list. This is basically a list that if you only ever play 100 games, these should probably be on it. Interesting little factoid, Josh. So I mentioned earlier that this evening my wife and I were over at my pastor's house. We were visiting them, having dinner with them. Had some really great food, had some good whiskey, some good conversation. Had mocha milk. Yeah, that's it, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's milk with mocha stuff in it. It's very tasty, very, very good. Enjoyed playing with his dog and the kids and just sort of having a really good time. But he actually recently purchased a Switch for his kids.
Nice.
And my wife and I were looking at the games because one of the girls is playing it, and we're like, "What are you playing there?" And we're looking, and it's like sort of looking at it. And I said, "Hey, there's a Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild on there." I said, "That's a pretty good game, Jared." He's like, "I may or may not have played it every night for the last week or whatever." And I laughed.
Nice.
I said, that's one of those ones. I said, it's very, very good. He's like, I haven't played video games in years. And he's like, I've been playing this one pretty regularly. And I said, well, it's pretty good. So, I was like a little bit of a chuckle. And I said, like, there are parts of, I said, Jared, there are things about that game that I'm not a fan of. I said, but overall, I think it is a very good game. I said, and if you're going to play a game, that's probably one you should play.
I love it.
I felt like that was a little bit on topic,
Oh, definitely.
About games you should play. Breath of the Wild is on the list.
It is.
But
one spot higher than Horizon Zero Dawn.
That might be fair. I don't know. It's kind of like
I'm just rubbing it in at this point.
You just rejoice in that. I mean, we'll see what they do with Horizon Zero Dawn or Horizon Forbidden West this year.
West, yeah, coming out soon.
It's coming out.
I didn't realize
soon.
how soon it was. So that's pretty sweet.
Yeah. It's interesting. And again, another little tidbit here. We actually just, we talked fairly recently, actually. It has been
that's true
more than 2 weeks, but we will get there. It has been less than 2 weeks since we talked. And you actually joined the Dear Critics Fantasy League.
I did.
With friend of the show, Micah Gear Solid is the Micah Gear is the commissioner. And you and actually Dear Commander himself, the TRGOG, Logan joined the league as well. And so I'm excited that draft night was fun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it
Oh
was
yeah.
a there was definitely some salt being thrown around. Uh,
Hmm.
I I am a little. I actually texted Micah earlier, and I said the only real disappointment I had was because I knew I probably wasn't going to get Silk Song. I knew that
Okay.
like I
Okay.
probably wasn't going to get that.
But
When
first pick, wow. I
dude,
was
well,
not expecting that. But anyways.
it's like one of those things where I was not expecting it first pick, but I don't blame her for taking it. I don't blame
Hmm.
Amanda for taking it at all. Um, I did not expect it to get to me.
Yeah.
The fact that I did get God of War for my first pick, I was
Hmm.
super stoked.
Hmm.
But when you snaked Sea of Stars out from underneath me, I was visibly like I was shooketh. I was angry. I was like, how dare I thought I was going to get that one under the radar, sort of like snake that out from everybody and like
Hmm.
and because that was like sort of one that was like flying on. And when you got that, I was like, "You son of a gun!" Um,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
might
Well,
have
it's
even.
like I said, after I got Sea of Stars, you got River City Girls too. And that
Mhm,
was literally the one I was debating between Sea of Stars. So because the thing about Sea of Stars is like it's unproven. You know?
mhm.
You,
And
you don't know.
River
It
City.
could be a train wreck.
I
What's
mean,
that?
and River City Girls, like one of the guys, it was either Marshall or Luke,
Hmm.
counterpicked it. They counterpicked
Hmm.
River City Girls, and they're like, "It's not going to do that good." I'm like, "Dude, I don't know, man. There was a
Yeah,
ton of hype behind River City Girls one. Uh,
exactly.
I think this is like a game that's going to score just as strongly, if not better, than the second one.
Right.
It doesn't
Right.
even have to be better. I think it will
Hmm.
be looking at that team. Um, but anyways,
Yeah.
yeah, I was just like I was glad that you were able to join us on that. I had a lot. It made paying attention to the games that are coming out a lot more fun.
Oh my
Um,
gosh, I learned about so many new games. Like I thought I at least fairly keep up with some things, but my goodness, there was so much that I didn't know about. And for better or worse, I mentioned how like I built my roster around games that I think will do well as opposed to games that I really want. So
well,
something, for instance, Triangle Strategy was not the highest on my list because I don't think it's going to be reviewed as well as my heart will review it when it
I don't
comes
know,
out.
dude. Like that's one where I honestly think like, and that was a first round pick for somebody.
It was, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and I
I
just
was
really
very
think I
surprised.
think like here's the thing. I think you're sort of underselling that
Yeah, I
because
could
it's
be.
the same team that developed Octopath. Octopath had
Hmm.
rapid success. I think the demo for this game has sort of like piqued a lot of curiosity. And I think like here's the thing: Final Fantasy Tactics is a bit of a cult classic, and the people who are super into it, I think they're going to be super into Triangle Strategy. And I think it's going to like, I don't think it's going to be a 90, but I think that
Hmm.
thing is going to be solidly in the 80s. Solid, like I think it's going to do very well. Um, I don't think it's I don't think it's on the same level. Like here's the thing: like Silk Song has like with the sort of beloved status of Hollow
Hmm.
Knight, right? Silksong very easily, I think, could like, just sort of hop into the '90s range
Yeah,
very easily. God
yeah.
of War,
If it
Horizon
comes,
Forbidden
yes.
West, Legend like Breath of the Wild 2. There's a ton of stuff in there that like yes, these games could like very easily peak into the '90s.
Hmm.
Like Horizon, like I said, Silksong was one of those.
Hmm.
Triangle Strategy, I'm not so sure, but I think it's going to be a very
Right.
strong game.
Okay.
Like, I think it's going to do very, very well. Um, so,
Yeah.
but that's just me. That's just
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I mean, that's one thing that's happened over the
Yeah,
past couple weeks
but
since we
well,
had our last episode.
but you know what? We might as well make it official. You know what, Josh? Yeah, it's been 2 weeks since I talked to you. There you
Yeah.
go, buddy. How have you been, man? Like, what do you got? What do you got for me as far as like 2 weeks catch up? Like, besides the thing I already know that you did.
Yes, yeah, yeah. The thing that's not so fun. The reason why this is slightly late in recording, and that's not just because of the bro hang that we had. That was very long before this episode. Um,
Mm,
yeah,
mm.
no, I had some. Let's just say I had some dental issues, and so That's always fun, right? Having an emergency dentist visit. That's great times. But I'm surprised at how quickly recovery has been, and no issues. So that's been great. Um, Outside of that, classes start up this week. This week is basically like life back to normal. So,
Hmm.
I'm I mean, not that I was away from work, but I'm back at work. Sam's back this week. I think I had said she works a couple days at the preschool that meets at our church as well. So just
Okay.
like the first half of the day, which is it's pretty sweet because Ollie comes with me, so he just hangs with me for the first like half of the day. He'll usually do a little bit of school, and yeah, we'll just kind of hang out while I'm working. So yeah, back to normal for the most part. Outside of dentist stuff, and the critic league was actually one of the other things that I was going to bring up, just because that was a lot of fun. Like it was funny because when Micah had said, set aside an hour and a half to do the draft, and then we get there and he's like, okay, make sure you have your picks. You get about 90 seconds, a minute to 90 seconds, preferably for each person. So I'm like, is this even going to be an hour and a half? But no, we were there. We were there for a while. Just the banter was so much fun.
Yeah, I
Whether
mean, and
poking
it's
fun at
like
each other
I
and
think actually, like while people were drafting, there was a lot of like, oh, that's a really good pick. Like there was a
right,
lot of
right.
that. It was like when the counter picks started coming, I was like, what? Are you on drugs? Like, I may or not be a little provocative there. Um,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know,
And I know this is a weird observation, especially to make this observation on a podcast. I was surprised at how much I was talking, just because normally I'm not that talkative if I'm not with a bunch of people that I know. I guess like you and Micah and Logan were
you
there,
knew
so I did
Logan
know
and
a bunch of people.
Adam.
But
Yeah, like you knew a fistful of people, but still.
yeah, as a newbie, I'm just surprised at how much like I was saying stupid stuff, because most of the stuff that I say is stupid, just like making fun of stuff.
Well,
But
and it's
yeah,
like you made a pun at one point in time, and Logan
yes,
applauded you, and I
yeah,
was like, "Don't
Annapurna,
encourage
yeah,
him." It's like,
yes. So
but yeah,
yeah,
it was a lot of fun. I would love, whether it's here or I'd even even like I don't care, but I'd love to get some of like that stuff like audio actually recorded, and just
yeah,
like some of the video, like some of that would just be fun to like do. I Micah so Micah does a quarterly review where he
hmm,
has like he'll talk about the games and how they're performing in the standings,
yep.
and he'll usually have
Invite
somebody.
someone on, yeah,
Yeah, and it's like it's a really cool little video. I'd love to see that get picked up somewhere and put on a YouTube channel somewhere, whether it's
yeah.
again TRGs or even here. I just it's really neat. I think people ought to see. Just yeah, a quick shout out to Micah is
Yes, that's
doing
what I was gonna say.
news with
Hmm.
TRG. Uh,
Yeah.
One, we that those are our friends, period, over at
Hmm.
TRG. But like, two, like, shout out Micah, like, salute, sir, like, well done,
Hmm.
sir. Very cool, very very cool, Mister News,
Yeah.
Mister Newsman.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah. I've been listening to TRG for quite a while, so I remember back when they called it Newsy News. I don't
yeah,
know why. It's just like
but
in my
now he's
mind.
managed to sort of spin that off into his own little sort of like I don't know if it's going to be weekly. I don't know what the plan with
Mhm.
it is, but it's cool. I'm into it, so I'm there for that.
Yeah,
And I think he's but I'm glad to see that, buddy. So
for
uh,
sure. For sure. Yeah. So, on this podcast, we don't generally keep up with video game news. So if that's something that you're interested in, there'll be a link for that in the description. Go check it out because Mike is cool. He's one of our friends.
yeah, that's one of our
Go do it.
homies.
Yeah.
But as
How about you in the
I was
past
gonna
couple of weeks? The past fortnight.
the fast fortnight in a day.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, work has
Four
sort of
score.
slowed down. I mean, which is, I
Okay,
mean,
that's good. That's
we,
good.
yeah, but dude, like we did have like
Oh
just like
no.
COVID Omicron came through and just
Okay.
like kicked
Yep.
in the office's teeth. We had 14
Yep.
call offs the one day.
Whoa.
It's like, dude, that's a significant chunk of
Yeah.
our workforce.
Mhm.
So yeah. Um, but I mean, overall, it's like things are sort of getting a little normal ish.
Mhm.
So there's that, which is cool. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm glad. It's nice to not feel like I'm going to tear out my hair every day. Sometimes I'm still
Yep.
I'm looking at some of the packages. Sometimes I'm like, what is wrong with you people? And then I remember that I'm one of those people. But
Uh,
there's that. I actually, but my Jeep started, like, I went out the one day and couldn't get it started. And
oh,
so,
no.
and it's one of those things, like, it wasn't the battery. We're not really sure what it was, but I dropped like $50 on a heavy duty extension cord and a trickle charger. And we're just sort of running it on a trickle charger every night. And I mean, I
Oh,
went and
wow.
got the battery tested and they were like, the battery's fine. Uh,
Huh.
I don't know. And it doesn't seem like, I mean, other than that, it just seems like it got just like a little too cold and couldn't hold the juice, but none of the
Okay.
cells are damaged or anything like that. Um,
Hmm.
some of it is like the Jeep's getting old. It was
Okay.
old when I bought it. And so it's kind of like, yeah. So,
Gotcha.
probably need to start looking at getting something else, but whatever. Um, we'll get there. We'll get there. But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
nothing super major. Just, I mean,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear that it's not still in overdrive there at work. It's not like constant 12-hour days anymore. Because
No, I mean,
yeah, you can
there's
only do
definitely
so
still
much.
some busy days. Like Mondays, you come in and it's usually a little busier than the rest of the week. But
For sure.
honestly, it's like, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the end of this month, January.
Mhm.
We're gonna be headed out to my folks, but for a couple days at one point. But then
Nice.
I'm taking a week of vacation in February,
Okay.
the first week of
Okay.
February. Uh, I'm stoked. Like, I think there's some stuff I'm gonna get, like, some stuff around the house I'm gonna get done and sort of get at. And but I mean, I think that's gonna be sort of there's gonna be a lot of, like, if I have anything to say about it, there's gonna be a lot of playing Returnal.
Heyo.
But I guess while we're on the topic of things we've been playing, why don't we just take this opportunity to sort of roll right into a bit of a backlog report? That's
I
very
like it.
aggressive. I like it.
Yeah, and that was very loud
Welcome to the
as
backlog
well.
report.
The Backlog Report. Today we're reporting on backlogs and. Today we have to report for you, sir.
Backlogs and report.
Backlogs. Returnal.
No, what
So,
have you? So what? Yeah, what have you been playing?
man, you threw off my order, you
Oh no.
jack. No, I'll go first. It's all right, buddy. So we'll just start with games. I actually I started off the year pretty strong, right?
Okay. Yep.
Actually beat and platinum this little game called The Sexy Brutale. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I actually like that game a lot. And at some point in time, I think I'm going to do a bit of a bite-sized on
Okay.
The Flame and the Flood, uh, Battle
Okay.
Chef Brigade, and then this, because they're all smaller experiences. And I think
Mm-hmm.
I could probably talk for about 10 minutes on each one of them. Uh,
Yeah.
just uh, The Sexy Brutale, I think is like one of those games. It's not super mechanically complex. It's an interesting sort of game that it's a time loop sort of thing. And it's got a
Okay.
really interesting story. It is a little heavier as far as content goes than I thought at first. At first, it just seemed sort of weird and whimsical, and I was kind of into it. It was like sort of some murder mystery stuff, and there's a little bit more going on than that, but I'm not going to talk about that right now because, like I said, I'm going to turn that into a bite size at some point in time in the nearest future.
It will
Um,
happen.
yeah, it's good. It's not like 10 out of 10 like recommend, but this is a pretty strong should play in my book. I think it's
Mhm.
short enough to at least merit a playthrough. I would recommend not using a guide unless you're really just struggling. There were
Okay.
like a couple puzzles that I was like, I don't, because it's sort of like an adventure game thing where you find a MacGuffin and you need to combine it with this, or you need to use this and da 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 da. Da. There was like one puzzle where I just did not understand the sequence, and I did not understand what I needed to do next in
Mhm.
order to figure out. I was like, what? And then maybe two puzzles, but like I would say for the most part, like try to figure out the sequence, try to figure out the puzzle. Like I said, and it's just I think it's a neat little game.
Mhm.
It's worth a play, and it's fun. It's got I think a fairly I think it's not like awesome, but it's got a neat aesthetic. It's got a neat look. It's got a neat vibe. It's got some cool music, and it's just fun. I think it's good. Um, it's sort of in like, if I gave it stars, like I did. Well, I did give it stars on uh, GG, but it would
Yes.
probably sit between like 3.5 to 5 or 3.5 to 4. Jeez,
Okay.
Nate counts. Nate knows numbers. But still playing Returnal. I actually pulled out my PSVR recently, and this was
Okay.
before we got the news about PSVR 2.
Ah.
But I was like, I knew that Moss Chapter 2 was coming at some point in time here in the next year or so. Um, at least I think it's slotted for sometime this year. Uh, oh,
Yeah.
1 second. You might have to.
Slotted.
I think I need to go find some Tums. Oh, I got some
Uh-oh.
heartburn here. Ugh, unpleasant.
Uh-oh.
Um, edit that out in post. But I've been playing Moss on my
Mhm.
PSVR. Uh,
Gotcha.
that game, like one, even though the visuals aren't as sort of like mind blowing as like we've become accustomed to, VR is just like that unit is so cool.
Okay.
Like it's still, I was like playing it and I was like, because I never beat Moss, so
Okay.
I want to sort of like go through that and at least the Astrobot Rescue Mission game in
Yeah.
VR and sort of play through those. So those are sort of like between that and Returnal, and then Neo 2 with my brother and Parker. I mean, because that's
Nice.
like, dude, Neo 2 is so freaking good. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like it is melt your face hard at times.
Okay.
But I like that gameplay loop, buddy. It's
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I
pretty
haven't been back
good.
to Neo in a while, but man, yeah, that was a good time. It's
It's
it's it's interesting because it takes that Soulsborne formula, but it does throw in its own things. It gives you a lot of options how you want
hmm
to tackle stuff. So that's
well,
super
and
cool.
Neo 2, if you get like the complete edition, adds a couple
Hmm.
weapons. Um, there's you can basically just get fist weapons, which like give you like basically
Okay.
sometimes you get Wolverine claws, sometimes you get other stuff, but
Hmm.
like fist weapons. And like I'm doing a fists and Kusarigama build, which
Okay.
I'm super into, and I'm just like, yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
I run around
Nice.
and I shoot dudes in the head with bows and arrows and rifles, and then when I can't shoot people in the head, I just sneak up on them and punch them to death. Um,
Hmm. Nice.
yeah, I dig it. I'm into it. Um, but yeah, as far as that's it, that's pretty much it as far as games go. Um, so let's see, books. Recently, I listened to I listened to a couple books that I talked about in the Bro Hang. Not going to talk about those because they were dumb, super dumb, and I don't recommend them except to maybe if you just want to listen to something that makes you go, "What?" Um, but I recently listened through Conspiracy by Ryan Holiday, and it's a true story. It's based on the basically the Hulk Hogan lawsuit against Gawker Media years ago,
Mhm.
and
Yep.
the whole thing surrounding that. Like, there was actually like a Silicon Valley tech billionaire who funded that entire legal campaign,
Mm.
basically to destroy Gawker. And this is
Gotcha.
like a true story, and it's just wild. It is absolutely wild. Now, the thing is, like, the book is very interesting. I think there's some interesting commentary, um, and just social media. I think Ryan Holiday kind of misses the point in a few things. I'm like, part
Mhm.
of but overall, and there's some adult language, because part of the thing does, um, to people who don't know the particulars of this, basically there was a sex tape of Hulk Hogan made without his consent that got on
Mhm.
the internet, and Gawker were the ones who sort of were the big push for some of this stuff.
Mhm.
And he ended up suing them. And this was a process that lasted years and years and years. And they were appealing to the First Amendment. And anyways, super. There's some adult language again in
Yeah.
there. But this story is just kind of interesting because it's just one of those things where I'm just like, man, like, it's just wild. It's like,
Yeah.
it's just, it's pretty wild. Uh, this book is not for everybody, but I liked it. And I was just like, it was just weird enough to like, oh, wow, the world is weird. People are weird. Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
this is entertaining. Uh, as far as another book that I had read, and I don't know if I ever mentioned this proper, but I listened to Jason Schreier's latest book, Press Reset. I
Yes.
may have
Mhm.
mentioned that,
You did.
but I did finish that a while ago, and I like that a whole lot. I also managed to finish the 100 Cupboards series,
Okay.
all three books of that. Those are
Yep.
excellent as well. Um, you know, I I can say this: I do not agree with all of N.D. Wilson's theology, but
Okay.
that dude can tell a heck of a story, and he's a really gifted writer. Um,
Mhm.
so I like those books. But as far as books, that's pretty much it. As far as any other media, I mean, Megan and I finished Only Murders in the Building, which that was that's a really great show, people. Uh,
Mhm.
you should be watching it. You should watch it if you have Hulu. Um, Still watching Bakuman. Uh, I booted up the second part of He-Man Revelation. It's the sort of the
Okay.
He-Man
Yeah.
reboot, dude. Like, holy poo! I liked I liked it. Like, listen,
Okay.
it's not it's a little sort of like feminist positive. I don't know. I wouldn't even say that. It's just like, just watch it, and if you don't like the ending, great. But it's not it's kind of rad, and I liked it. I don't know. Like, I didn't think it was awful. I had a good time. It was a heck of a romp. And it's like, if you're really trying to reboot this weird cartoon that was that was built solely to sell these toys, like,
Mhm.
this isn't a bad way to do it. I thought it was kind of cool. And it actually, like, even sort of hints at maybe another season. And I'm kind of like, I like He-Man. So I mean, I was all about like the Thundercats reboot too. So I mean, this is like, guys, like, I'm just gonna say, like, cards on the table. I'm pretty biased here because I liked He-Man and Thundercats a lot when I was a kid. So I don't think
Okay.
this is trash. I think this is pretty good. It's not awesome. It's not how I would do it 100%, but it's not terrible. Um, Lastly, as far as any just media, um, I would really, and we talked a little bit about it. The way I heard it with Micro, a few years ago, maybe a year or so ago, they sort of rebranded it, and it's become a longer form sort of podcast. But this last episode, just sort of give you the TLDR version, guys. is Mike tested positive before Christmas for COVID.
Mhm.
His symptoms were fairly mild. He got through it, and then he found out fairly recently too that his parents, his mom and dad, who are both fairly, I mean, Mike Rowe is not exactly a young man anymore.
Mhm.
You know,
Right.
but his parents tested positive. And
Mhm.
so he and his producer Chuck have a conversation about COVID, like all the implications, all the like, and it just, I don't want to say more than that because I really think it's a conversation people should just listen to, and sort of, there are good things in there. There are things I don't agree with, but I think it's a good conversation.
Mhm.
It's the kind of conversation that we've been missing when it comes to all of this stuff. As a general rule, again, full sort of disclosure here, I really appreciate just Mike Rowe in general. I think he's sort of brought a lot of appreciation to just labor and vocation and the trades. And
Yep.
he's sort of a voice for just sort of a common decency and work ethic. He's part of, like, he's basically, I don't know his faith, what he
Mhm.
believes. I don't believe he's a Christian, but this man has a really, in a lot of ways, it's humanist oriented, because I think that's what he is. But I think it's a really outstanding. It's almost a like, if you can have a biblical work ethic without believing the Bible, that's what this guy has got. Like, and just like, I really appreciate his take on just sort of
Mhm.
like, he's just one of those people that I've come to appreciate his voice over the last couple of years, and I would just recommend it.
Nice.
I think it's a really great episode, um, about that sort of just, it's been one of those things where I've just been telling people, you need to listen to this. It's really great. How about you, man? What have you been playing?
Gotcha. Well, I'm gonna go in reverse order just because I feel like I have more on that end there. So, in terms of what I've been watching, not much. We haven't watched very much more of Band of Brothers. Still really like it, but haven't gone too far into that. But I did finish up. I can't remember if I mentioned it on the last episode. I don't think so. I think it's been within the past 2 weeks. Did finish up the original season of Ultraman, 1966
Mm.
Ultraman. That was a lot of fun. Excuse me. So now I'm on to the second season because I'm a nerd and I have like all these old seasons of Ultraman because they were super cheap and I love it. I've got my little collection. It's awesome. So after Ultraman 1966 comes Ultra 7. And so I've been watching some
Yep.
of that. I'm like about 10 episodes in for that. And it's really cool. Like I still really like, I mean, yeah, I really like, it's cheesy. It was made in the 60s. Yeah. But there's just something about it. It does strive for more than just, there's kind of a normal cycle, there's a formula for a lot of the episodes, but I do think it tries to do something more. I would say it's like a cross between like original Star Trek and Twilight Zone, kind of just like telling these stories that say something a little bit more, which is pretty cool. Ultra 7, it definitely within like 3 episodes. So Ultraman uses his little spacium beam.
Mm-hmm.
Ultra 7 has this like mohawk looking thing, which is basically a boomerang knife that he will like take off his head and throw at enemies
Yes.
and just slice them in half.
I
So the first
I
couple
need
episodes,
I need that. I need a boomerang mohawk knife thing.
it's pretty intense. It's pretty intense. He does have another ray that he like shoots from the little like jewel in his forehead. But when he throws that thing, it usually just like slashes the enemy in half, which is pretty intense. And the first couple times it's like, whoa, that's pretty cool. But then by like the third or fourth episode, he does that to one of the aliens, and it not only slices off the alien's head, but there's like a bucket of blood that just like comes out from the
Are the kids watching this with you?
no, luckily they missed out on that episode in particular. Like they had been watching some of the other ones, and old Ultraman is what I go to when when the kids don't really care. Like cuz I like to recommend, "Hey, we should watch Ultraman." They'll say sometimes they'll be like, "Yeah, let's watch Ultraman," and other times they'll say no. And when that's the case, we watch the new generation heroes. So we're on Ultraman Orb, but we haven't watched it in forever because they haven't wanted to. So old Ultraman, because I figure old, they probably aren't as interested in, it's not as much of a spectacle. You have to appreciate it for its time and for the stories that it's trying to tell. So that one's really more for me than it is for the whole family. But if they see me interested in it, then they'll like want to watch it too, kind of a thing. So they've seen some of it. They already have the theme song stuck in their head. But luckily they did miss out on that one because I was just like, oh, I was not expecting that. And it's not like, it's not like a spray or anything like that. It literally looks like the person, there's a person crouching down behind them who has like a bucket of fake blood that just like kind of threw it over. Because it like cuts off and then splashes over. So that was pretty intense.
And that's like, I think we were having some conversations with Wes, and he's like, Ace is just gruesome.
Yes.
So
yeah, apparently it gets really intense later on. Yeah, so I have not even scratched the surface so far, but I'm having a lot of fun with that. In terms of what I've been reading, so there's a couple things here and there, but really what I wanted to talk about just for a little bit is by the latest book from Carl Trueman called The Rise and Triumph of the Modern Self, I think is what it's called.
yeah, I saw
something along
in
those
the
lines.
Discord you mentioned that you were reading that.
Yeah, fascinating book. It is way better than I expected it to be. And he starts off by saying that it's kind of like a layman's version of some other person's kind of like I guess theories, not necessarily theories. It's more of a history of a lot of kind of modern ideas about the self, which equates to a lot of different things like politics and sexuality and things like that. And it's deeper than I was expecting. But he goes into a lot of different like ideas. It's almost like a philosophy book that kind of traces some of these ideas and how it has coalesced into our current current kind of like cultural climate that we're in right now. That you can say some things that while sure there are lots of things that are similar, but we have just this very strange little melting pot of ideas that we're in right now, to where you can like almost deny biology when you're talking about identity, when you're talking about like the idea of yourself and how that trumps other things that in previous ages we would have considered to be more akin to reality. So that I would highly recommend the book. I need to go back and listen to it again. I only listened to it once, and it's like 12, 13 hours, so it was longer than I expected. But yeah, I was very impressed, and it when you put all these kind of things, all these pieces together, it was really interesting just to take a look at each of the little pieces and then how they eventually kind of build on each other. Because I think we're tempted to give very simplistic answers, which makes a lot of our ideas of our perspective on the world and how we see the world seem very radical. And in ways, I mean, there are lots of radical ideas in the current culture, but to see like how we've gotten there is really interesting. So I would highly recommend the book. And like I said, I need to listen to it again. In terms of what I've been playing,
I was just going to say, Truman's just one of those guys that I know he's not everybody's favorite, but I think he's a pretty solid. I mean, I think he's got a pretty good head on his shoulders, and I think at times, like, yeah, I don't know. I appreciate a lot of what Carl Trueman has to say. Just I listen to Mortification of Spin pretty often.
Okay.
And I think just like But
Yeah, I might need to get back into it because it's been quite a while.
well,
Since I've gone back to it.
They just actually recently moved to a bi-weekly schedule.
Okay.
So they only release an episode every couple of weeks, and I don't always listen either. And then a couple of years ago, Amy Bird left the program.
That was around the time that I stopped listening to it, or it was actually a little bit before then, because then I heard about all that stuff, dipped in for a little while to figure out what was going on, and then
there's not a lot of. I don't think there's ever been any real clear answers about what all happened there. It's like, she's said a couple things, but even there, it just says, well, this is kind of what happened, but it's like, it's almost like, well, but why? Anyways, sorry, sidetrack.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff. I would definitely recommend the book.
Mortification to Spin is just, he's talked about it on there. I think he actually did and I know I'm rabbit trail. He did an episode on Reform Forum, I think. In one of the Reform Forum podcasts, talking about it a little bit. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll check that out.
Okay.
Okay, for games. So 2 games that I've played so far this year. Had not finished, but the first one I did finish, and that was what you had mentioned before, Battle Chef Brigade. When you had talked about that game. Yeah, it reminded me. So it was a couple things, okay? It reminded me, and actually, I guess there are more games, but anyways, it reminded me that this game has been on my backlog for like a few years at this point, and I had been wanting to play it. Like when it first came out, I want to say it got some pretty good reviews. Lots of people were talking about it as like this little indie game that did this really interesting thing. So when you had mentioned that you had played it, I checked on how long to beat. It's like 8 hours or something like that, and I was like, okay, I can do this to get a point, before the end of the year. Like we can do that. Didn't turn out that way. It rolled over into 2022. So it was my first negative point of the beatdown in 2022 when I finished up this game. It was, dude, you asked me what my thoughts were on it. And honestly, like listening back to your thoughts, I had kind of the same, very same kind of ideas. I think I would probably rate it more of like a 3 out of 5 than a 3.5. It's fun. It's a good game. It's interesting. There were just in some ways it felt kind of cheap. And I like the art style that they went with, kind of like anime, sketchy kind of art style. Like it looks good. I think the voice acting was good too. But there was something about the way the characters moved, the way that they controlled. It was kind of floaty. That felt like almost like a Flash game.
And I think you kind of hit on it for me too when we were sort of talking about it back and forth a little bit. Like I think the combat, it's unfortunate because like the beat 'em up stuff was kind of fun, but it was very like spammy. It's like just mash on the square button until they die, or whatever but it's like just mash this button and things die, and it's like
I never used the dodge button. I remember in the tutorial when they taught you how to do it. That was the only time I used it.
I did use it in one, like
maybe one of the bigger enemies.
The dragon. Hold on 1 second here.
Okay. Yeah,
1 second.
Is that one of the dogs, maybe? Sorry, this is boring when it's just dead air, isn't it? I'm not quite sure how to fill the dead air, except to say that there are a couple more games that I played through to get some points as well. Some beat 'em ups, some Capcom beat 'em ups that were varying degrees of fun. They were all fun. I enjoyed them all. I guess I'll probably talk about it more when Nate gets back, even though I don't want to go too long here, because I also have to talk about Final Fantasy IX, because guys, Final Fantasy IX is a really good game. Yeah, it's solid, man. would recommend?
There was like this weird knocking,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it was
Was
just,
it a dog?
I think it was my dog. I don't
Okay.
know exactly what she was
Pawing
doing.
at something.
Yeah, she was like knocking something, and it was like,
Hmm.
but it's Nala, and so I put her out. But
Oh.
she's my poor buddy.
Yeah, how's she doing?
She's a turd, psycho turd.
Okay.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I love her to death, but yeah. Anyway. But going back to Battle Chef Brigade, yeah, it feels like, well, and it's like, even what I said, I wish the game felt like a little more fleshed out. Like, I wish the
Mm-hmm.
combat was a little more robust. Yeah, it does feel pretty floaty, but I was saying I did dodge in one fight. When you fight that
Yes.
dragon,
Uh-huh.
I did use dodge to fight the dragon.
Okay. Okay.
But
I would just warp behind it when it started
you
doing
do
its
the backstab
multi-attacks.
thing. Yeah, I
Yeah.
did that
Mhm.
too, but sometimes I would just like dodge and then
Yeah.
but yeah, like I just felt like it's a game that had a lot of really interesting promise. I'd like to see if they do
Mhm.
a sequel, what they
Yeah.
do with that, if they flesh it out a little bit, because
Mhm.
it's one of those games that I really liked. I think like
Mhm.
it's you know I and this is just one of those things where I would almost rate it as a 3.25. Like
Mhm.
it's like it sort of floats in between 3.5 stars. Like it's like
Yeah.
I'm like
Yeah.
it's pretty good. It's pretty fun. It's enjoyable. It's not.
Mhm.
It's just
Yes.
it's like one of those things. Like if you can pick it up for $10, do it. Like
Mhm.
it's worth $5-10 in my opinion. But yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, I'm glad you liked it. So
Yes. Yes. And I'm glad that I finally played it because I had been meaning
yeah.
to for a long. It was like literally on my short list for a long time. So it was totally because you said that you were playing it that I was like, oh yeah, that one. Let's go ahead. Because the other one that I've said that I was going to play for like the past couple of years is Papers, Please. It's another small indie game
That's on
that
my
I
short
still
list
have
too.
never played through it. Man. So that and I did install and then didn't even play Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon. So that's fun. Because it's another short one. I was looking for very short games
I
because my score was
tried
terrible.
to. So I have Blood Dragon on PS3,
Mhm.
and
Okay.
I've tried to sort of play on PS3, and I just can't go back. Like it's just, yeah.
Yeah.
I like Far Cry 3 a lot, and
Mhm.
I just it'd be interesting. Like I know there's like a Far Cry 3 like remaster for the PS4. I think
Oh, okay.
I think I have that. And if they included that on there, maybe I'd play it. But anyways,
Mhm.
yeah, that neither here nor there. But yeah, anyways,
Nice. Another few games that I could just kind of blaze through in order to get the points, and obviously because it was pretty fun, were some games on the Capcom Beat 'em Up bundle on Switch. So old arcade belt scroller games that were a lot of fun to just sit down and play for like an hour
yeah.
or two at a time, and go through them. So gosh, I can't even remember the names of all of them. Captain Commando. So this guy was he was supposed to be the mascot for Capcom, so they named him Captain Commando. It's not just a really generic name, but it's like he was actually supposed to be the mascot.
Capcom.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, and it's a wacky game. I mean, man, so you can choose between him, which is kind of your normal hero, superhero looking dude, or this mummy with like a backwards orange baseball cap guy, or a ninja, or a baby in a mech was one of the characters. And then you get to the last bad guy, the guy pulling the strings behind everything. His name is Scumicide. So it was just like super like 90s, but it was just a blast to play through that. There was another game, and I can't remember. Warriors of Fate, I think, is what it was called. That was actually technically a spin-off of the Romance of the Three Kingdoms in Japan, but they kind of changed it up a little bit here for America. That was fun, very simple. just beat 'em up. And then Armored Warriors, I believe it was called. I could be wrong about that, which was a beat 'em up with mechs, which was super cool. But even though you were in big mechs, it was actually the fastest out of the games that I played. Oh, I also played King of Dragons. That's what it was. So played through a bunch of those, and they're fairly standard beat 'em up fare. But man, when you want something just arcadey and just to have some fun, they were all a good time. And then finally, the game that I'm playing currently right now, because we've drafted it as a community here at the Backlog Beatdown, is Final Fantasy IX. And I mentioned to you before we started recording that this game I think is better than I remember it. I only played through it once back in like high school, and I enjoyed it. Like I actually really liked it. But I'd forgotten most of it. Like I don't remember any of the story. I feel like I'm going through it all over again. Because I don't remember hardly. I remember the characters. I don't remember the story, the overall story. And just the tone, like the whimsical, it's very charming, but it also at the same time gets at some like deeper themes, which I'm surprised. Some of the things that it's trying to hit. Solid combat. Yes, it's slow, but I speed it up on the Switch. You can do that. These modern remakes or the remasters allow you to speed things up, which is nice. Man, I'm having a blast with it. Like I'm really enjoying it. It feels like a proto like Bravely Default. It like I can see how those games, and I never played that one Final Fantasy game. I own it, but I haven't played it. The one that was proto Bravely Default, the Four Warriors of Light. Like you can see this is where
the 3D, the DS era, Four Warriors of Light. Okay, yeah.
But also, it's interesting to think that after 9, like 9 was kind of the return to form. After 9, Final Fantasy like never went back to a traditional battle system, I guess, in general. Like 10 was still turn-based RPG, but they got rid of level ups. You've got the sphere grid, something like that. And then ever since then, it's just kind of been all kind of MMO. The semi single player MMO, and then whatever 13 was
11,
and then
12 does like the sort of 13 is a further development of some of like the AI systems that they were sort of incorporating into 12. And all of that 13 stuff, really the paradigm shifting and all that weirdness. 14 is a bit of a, like, it's still around. It's apparently
it's doing really well,
experiencing a bit of a resurgence with the latest DLC. 15 was the bromance stuff, and then 16
Kingdom Hearts game.
16 looks like it might be basically a return to sort of the fantasy, but it seems more of a
dark fantasy,
like grimdark, maybe more sort of like George R.R. Martin. I mean, you and I sort of talked before when we were talking before we started recording this. I have always really enjoyed 9. And I've actually been playing 9 on my Vita, but now that you mention it, I'm half tempted to reinstall it on my PlayStation just to sort of like see about the upgrades and the quality of life stuff on the big screen.
Okay.
We'll see. Because I think I do own it for my Switch, and I'm kind of tempted to play it there, but it's like, if I can get trophies, I'm gonna get the trophies. I'm gonna go where the trophies are.
And there were weird things. I was debating even just getting it for my laptop here, because of the mods that are available, and I've heard that the mods are beautiful.
That Moggery mod is pretty whatever, but I mean, because of the state of my laptop at this point in time.
I
mean, it's functioning, and the part that is not great is my fault. So that's but 9 is just one of those games that, like, I'm gonna say this, okay, and I think like I know everybody's like Final Fantasy VII is the best one. And it's like, well, you're just a no taste having hack.
It says more about you than it does about the game.
Yeah. It's like apparently like melodrama and emo garbage. Uh, I, I'm only
I like emo garbage.
half joking, but I'm not a huge fan of Seven.
Yeah.
And I think I really liked Nine when it came out, and coming back to it, like there's sort of a wholesomeness to it
Hmm.
that I miss in games, especially in the Final
Yeah.
Fantasy games.
Yeah.
And I think that like 7 and 8, yeah, probably did better numbers than 9.
Yes.
And like 9 was just like one of those things where it was like, because like a bunch of edge lordy teenagers back in the 90s didn't want to, like, I don't know, not feel angsty or whatever. Like the game
Mm.
suffered. I think it's a great game, and I think it's always
Yeah.
sort of gotten. Yeah.
The little bit of research that I've done, based on like the YouTube videos that I've seen, actually. So there were a couple things. 9 was towards the end of the PlayStation 1's life,
There's that as well.
and
Yeah.
10 came out, I think, a year later on PlayStation 2.
Okay.
So that definitely like sucked up a lot of the hype there. 9 is, I think, according to OpenCritic or Metacritic, I can't remember, the highest critically rated Final Fantasy game.
Hmm.
But in terms of sales, it's one of the lowest 3D. I think it's the lowest 3D Final Fantasy.
Which is unfortunate
I could be
because
wrong on that.
I get it. It was sort of the end of the PS1, but like even when
Yeah.
you look at it versus
It's
7 and 8,
beautiful.
it's
Oh my
beautiful.
gosh! Yeah, it
It's
looks
a
great.
gorgeous game.
I'm playing the remaster, but
I mean,
still,
I'm
like,
playing the PS1 version
oh wow,
on my Vita,
yeah,
and I'm like, even there,
nice,
this is a really great looking game from
yeah,
that era,
that's
where it's
awesome.
like it doesn't suffer from some of. I mean, like there's some of the gross polygon stuff there, but it's not
Yeah,
like this is some of the least offensive polygon
hmm,
era stuff that I've seen, and I'm just kind of like, and it just breaks my heart because I think it's a great game and it's just gotten
it
crapped
really
on
is.
for years. But yeah, I am also sort of playing it low key. So
I don't know that it's been crapped on. At least I haven't seen that. I just think it's been forgotten.
well,
And I say that as someone who, like, admittedly forgot all of the story. Like,
yeah,
but man, coming back to it, it's just like, wow, yeah, I think it's better than I remember. So
yeah,
I'm loving. I'm like 15 hours in, something like that. I think I'm like halfway done with the game. I could be somewhere around there, according to the things that I've seen. But
yeah.
I'm loving it.
That's actually our book club game. So yeah, I was
Yes.
nominated by the community for first quarter of 2022. So looking
Hmm.
forward. Yeah. I need to like I think now that we've talked about it, I am going to put it on my PS5 and I'm going to just play it on the big screen and see what it's like there. So
Okay.
see what that remaster looks like up there.
Nice. Nice. In between runs at Returnal.
What else you got, man?
That's it. That's it. That's all I've been playing.
So hey, just where's your backlog score standing?
Right now, it's just at -1.
-1?
So what did I end the year with? I think I ended 2021 with negative, I think it was up to -8. I could be
You
wrong.
were like
Might have
I
been
think
-7.
you were -7, -8, somewhere in that ballpark. I
Yeah.
want to say I think -8 is where you ended because I
Okay.
think I remember reading the comment because I ended last year on a -7, like I pretty much said I
Nice.
was going to. But I think you squeezed out a few more games, and I did see you sort
Right.
of move into that. I actually started out this year with a healthy -2 because I not only beat but I
Nice.
platinumed the Sexy Brutale, and then
Right.
I used the last little bit of my credit to snap up a couple things. I actually have
Hmm.
the list almost right in front of me. It's on the very next page, and I can just pull it up. I actually picked up the Clubhouse Games 51
That's right.
Worldwide Classics for for Switch, Eastward, and then Chris Tales. Eastward for Switch, Chris
Nice.
Tales for PS5 and PS4. Yeah, so that gives me, and I used like gift cards and tip money and stuff like that. So I take the +1, but because they were technically gifted games, I can play them with no penalty to my score. So that puts me at a
Right.
+1 for the year so far. And speaking of backlog scores, guys and gals, the official app for the 2022 Backlog Beatdown is none other than the GG app. We love the GG app. We think it's a great little product. Basically, you can create custom lists. You can do reviews on there. I do reviews of most of the games I beat. And there's a 5-star rating sort of thing. And but you can write up little reviews. It shows you sort of what your friends are doing. There's a ton of features. It's basically the Letterboxd app for your game collection. It's great. We love it. We love Charles. Actually, I think next week we're going to have him on. Or not next week, but next episode we're going to have him on. If all goes according to plan. And we love that app. Speaking about other things we love, if you love what we do here, okay, we have a Patreon, and this is sort of like the lowest possible pressure sort of pitch here. If you like what we do and you want to sort of go a little bit above and beyond the sub and share kind of model, we would just encourage you to maybe take a look at that, throw a buck at it. We actually there's a few perks to being a patron. There's actually, oh man, I can't talk. Jeez, it's may talk pretty someday. There's actually a few benefits. There's just content that is specifically just for the patrons. Patrons have a little more access and sort of influence in sort of helping to shape the show. And helping us to sort of make decisions on what we should do and how we should, sort of use our resources. They get access to videos, they get early access. There's benefits. Like I said, and I've said this before, it's not like it's going to change your life, but it absolutely will. Lastly, another thing that we love, we are members of the Playwell Network. Our friends, Paul, the artist formerly known as the Techno Funk Boy, and Wes, none other than the Henshin Dad himself, are both members of that as well, in their respective podcasts. Paul just launched a new podcast, the Perilous Realms of Paul Lytle, I think, which he's written a bunch of stuff, and he's just reading through. He basically, like, they're audiobook versions of a bunch of the stuff he's written, and that's pretty cool. We're excited to sort of welcome that to the Pomecast family, as well as, like I said, Wes, of course, we love that dude. And so we love those guys. We love the content they do. And we are so glad to be able to partner with them. And with all of that being said, here's a word from one of them.
Dig it.
That one was pretty. I did all right on that one.
You did.
Even though you made
did.
me go first, you scallywag.
Okay, I guess I'll just know for next time.
No, I'm kidding.
Don't do that.
I think now that I've sort of found like the segue rhythm, I'm kind of like, like I'm into this. Like I can do this. I can do this.
I like it.
So before we actually jump into this,
yes.
What nominations or ideas do you have in regards to this sort of?
So for the new ones that we actually have written down as like potentials in this document were Nier and Edith Finch.
Edith Finch isn't on the list?
Because we did that one early last year.
Okay.
So it was right after we redid the list.
Is Control on the list?
No, it's not.
Okay, so what I have written down is Control, Nier Automata, Streets of Rage, Dying Light with a question mark, and Baldur's Gate with a question mark. And we'll sort of throw Edith Finch in there. So the the definite ones are Nier Automata and Edith Finch. I think
Yes.
Control should
Yeah.
very much be in that conversation as like this is a definite. Like I said, Dying Light and Baldur's Gate and Streets of Rage 4 are all sort of like question marks. I thought like we
Yeah.
could maybe throw them in there just to sort of see if anything sticks. I'll
Mhm.
be honest, I think when as far as Baldur's Gate goes, I think
Mhm.
I'm pretty content to just leave Baldur's Gate 2 as the placeholder for CRPGs
Okay.
until we sort of play through that, because Paul has even said Baldur's Gate 2 is a better game.
Yeah.
So
That's true.
until we
That's
play
true.
something that we feel like should dethrone it, I think Baldur's Gate 2 just needs to sort of stick in there until you know what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah, that totally makes sense. The only other thing that I'll probably just mention it, but like, okay, my game of the year last year was Shin Megami Tensei 5,
mm-hmm,
but I think 4 that we have on this list
is
is
better.
actually a better I think it's a better representation of the series
Okay.
than 5 is. 5 does like it is much smoother. Like it's a better playing game, but it's also not without its faults, and like the heavy exploration that it is about is fantastic, but it's also not what the series has traditionally been about. And so I have a hard time like saying that this is definitely the one that you should start out, like that you should play and start out with,
And, well, maybe we should
especially
have
over 4.
a bit of a conversation about this, because I feel
Okay.
that's actually kind of how I feel about Breath of the Wild. I think Breath of the Wild is a really
Yeah.
outstanding game, but
Mhm.
because it sort of like veers so off the beaten path of like Zelda games, it's very
Yeah.
hard for me to like come to like. I think it's a great game, and so
Mhm.
I think like, but like we can bring it up and we can sort of
Okay.
hash it out and talk about it and sort of like see where we sort of stand on this thing. But
Cool.
all right. So now we have sort of an idea of what we're going to be talking about here.
Yeah, just a handful of games. I think also, well, we'll get into it, but I do want to kind of reiterate, like, excuse me, our philosophy on this list,
Mm-hmm.
because I do think, as I was looking through it again, I was like, I think intentionally so, there are games on here that are just to represent a genre,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm okay with that. Like, I think that's a good thing. That these are more like 100 games that you should play rather than
And for some of that
absolute
stuff, I would
100
like
best.
to find the representations of that genre that we would personally endorse.
Yeah.
Like, and
Yeah.
I think like when the list was originally sort of like put together with everybody's votes
Mhm.
and everything else, it was like, okay, this is sort of, and the evolution of this at this point in time. So it's like, I'm probably going to play through Black Ops 3 and maybe the Modern Warfare 2 remaster as far as Call of
Mhm.
Duty stuff goes, because I hear that those are probably, people are like Black Ops, Black Ops 2 or 3, and then Battlefield 1 is probably the Battlefield game that I like, because everybody's like Battlefield 1, that not the OG, but like the one that came out just a few
Yeah.
years ago. They're like,
Yeah.
that game is phenomenal, and so
Okay.
that will
Okay.
be the stuff that like I like. I plan on sort of going through and just sort of like churning through the campaigns on some of that stuff this year,
Mhm.
because I don't think any of those campaigns are super long. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I
but
still need to play Titanfall 2
dude,
for that same reason.
ooh,
I've
Titanfall
heard it's
2
really
is a
good.
great one, dude. There's a
Yeah.
particular level in there that is just like chef kiss perfection. Um,
Nice.
Returnal is like one of those things, when I'm finally done with it, I think maybe will be, so it'll be maybe in talks for like the mid-year sort of adjustment review or
Yeah.
whatever for,
Yeah.
but dude, Returnal is just like, I just can't, similar to Hades, like
Mhm.
like, well, and we've talked about it. Okay. And we can talk about this a little bit more too, but like, I don't like spending a ton of time in games. Like, I like to sort of play my game, move through it at a reasonable clip, and then be done with it. Returnal, I just can't like leave this game alone. Like, now
Gotcha.
it doesn't hurt that I'm not really making progress. Like I've sort of been stuck
Okay.
on the third biome, and that's not true. I've been to the boss of the third biome several times now, and so now that I've found my sort of rhythm and everything, but I'm like, dude, I love this game. Like it's just like the action sequences are so good. Like this sort of like the way the story's sort of drip fed. I'm into it. It's like it's very similar to how I felt about Hades. Like where I'm just like this game easily cracks my top 20, probably my
Wow.
top 15, maybe even my top 10. Like it depends on the day you catch me, and it's like I haven't visited my top 10 in a hot minute. So,
Right.
but
Yeah.
I'm just sort of saying like
Nice.
Returnal is pretty stinking fantastic. It's just like, yeah, it's everything else sort of like gets filtered into like, well, I don't have time to really like dedicate to playing Returnal right now, so I'll play something else.
Yeah.
So,
I feel you.
but yeah, all right. Well, let's sort of jump into this. All right,
Cool.
ready? And we're back. So, Josh,
Hello.
topic of the show, right? We
Mhm.
have this top 100 list that a few years ago we put together, and we originally
Yep.
put this thing together we had a contest. And it was like for our 25th full or 50th full length episode. I can't remember. But it was something like that. We were like, or we were trying to close out maybe our second year of, I can't remember exactly what all the circumstances were, but we're like, we had people send us in a list of their 10 favorite games. And then we
Yep.
used all that, and the games, we sort of created a ranking, and that was the origin of this. So the 100 games
Yep.
that sort of won out, we cultivated this top 100 list. And in the years following, basically what this is sort of, and I don't know if this was my intent or our intent or whatever when we started, but what it's happened is like as we've sort of kicked some stuff out, we've put some stuff in, we've added stuff. This has sort of become like, we're sort of using this list and saying, if you're only going to play 100 games, these 100 games should be in it, like at least in the mix, in the running. Like
Yeah.
these are the 100 games that like we personally endorse as being, and now not every one of those games is a perfect endorsement. Like we're sort of constantly sort of trickling things in and out. Josh and I, we both have sort of our preferred genres and stuff. So like there's not a lot of sports games representation. There's not a lot of like fighting game representation. There's some genres are just absent, or there's stuff in there that's like placeholders. But you know what I thought might be helpful is to just sort of like briefly run down the list as it stands currently. Let me sort of pull that up, and let's start from the bottom and work our way to the top here real quick. I hate how these what are you doing here, you stupid?
Do you want to do it in chunks of 25? I can do the first 25.
Yeah, why don't you do that? And
Okay.
I'll pick up at yeah. So at 100.
Okay. So
We
yes,
have
at 100.
this is the eternal 100 until
Yeah.
I mean, I just think it ought to be 100 forever into perpetuity.
Yeah.
But anyways,
But that is River City Ransom for the original Nintendo. Then we've got Skyrim, World of Warcraft, Guitar Hero 3, Game Dev Story, The Stanley Parable, Shovel Knight, Bomberman Generation, Portal, Katamari Damacy, Katana Zero, The Nonary Games. I'm cheating there, but I love it. NBA Jam, Donkey Kong 94, XCOM 2, XCOM 2, XCOM 2, Mass Effect 2, Halo 2, Titanfall 2, Bubble Bobble, Dragon Warrior, Hyper Light Drifter, Dark Souls, Xenoblade Chronicles, Rogue Legacy, Shin Megami Tensei 4, Sonic Mania.
Well, Sonic
It's about
Mania
25.
would have been mine,
Okay.
I think, but that's all right.
Okay. Sorry.
I'm not going to be super possessive over that. But yeah, so we have picking up where Sonic Mania, then Celeste, Bionic Commando Rearmed, Mega Man Legends, Kirby Superstar, Neo, Persona 5 Royal, Persona 3 Fes, however you want to say that, Destiny
Mhm.
2, Diablo 2, Borderlands 2, another round of twos there. Animal Crossing, New Horizon, Metroid Prime, Dragon Quest 8, SMT, Devil Survivor OC. I think that's overclocked.
Overclocked.
Uh, and then my cursor just went crazy. StarCraft, Batman, Arkham City, Far Cry 3, Pikmin 3, Super Mario World, Psychonauts, Super Mario RPG, Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater, Star Fox 64, Street Fighter Alpha 2, and I think that's where you pick up, buddy.
Okay. So I've got Rocket League, Overwatch, Tecmo Super Bowl, Earthbound, Super Metroid, Uncharted 2, Baldur's Gate 2, Mega Man 2, Dishonored 2, Resident Evil 2 Remake. Man, so many twos. Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, Journey, Dead Space, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Mario Kart 8, Horizon Zero Dawn, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Castle Crashers, Ori and the Blind Forest, Octopath Traveler, Dragon Quest V, Fallout New Vegas, Yoshi's Island, Dragon Quest. I literally see the words Final Fantasy and I read it as Dragon Quest. Final Fantasy IV, that was weird. Doom, Super Mario. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. I mean, I'm only going to mock you a little bit. Super Mario 3D World, then Astrobot Rescue Mission, Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, Mike Tyson's Punch Out, Spec Ops The Line, Final Fantasy Tactics, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, God of War 2018, Bioshock Infinite, Spider-Man 2018, Mega Man X, Metal Gear Solid, Resident Evil 4, Diablo 3, Hades, and then we're hitting the top 10 best games of all time. Bioshock, Tetris Effect, Bloodborne, Hollow Knight, Super Mario Galaxy, The Last of Us, Final Fantasy VI, Shadow of the Colossus, Chrono Trigger, and Super Mario Brothers 3.
There you go.
So, and let's just talk briefly about some of the games. Like, there are two, maybe three like hard candidates, and then we have maybe a couple like that are sort of questionable. There's a B
Right.
in that word, Nate.
Able to be questioned.
Able to be
Yes, indeed.
questioned. So specifically, when I was sort of looking at the stuff that we've played and I've played and that you've played over the last year, there are two games in particular that sort of, or three games rather, that get sort of very hard mentions where we sort of, I think we both agree that they belong somewhere on this list. Where on this
Yeah.
list, what they were going to replace, how we're going to sort of like how that is going to shuffle out. I think the first, in my opinion, is Control.
Okay.
Belongs on this list somewhere. Where it belongs exactly is to be determined. Let's see. Near Automata, is also belongs on this list. Again, where on this list exactly? And then Edith Finch. What remains of Edith Finch? Which after you played that, at the beginning of last year, pretty much after we played through that, and we just never got around to actually doing anything with it. So those are the three hard games. Like those, I think before the end of this episode, we need to find out where they belong, and they need to go on here somewhere.
Yeah.
I have a couple that are sort of softer, maybe suggestions that I think these are games that had impact. And the question remains, do they belong on here? If so, where do they belong? And, but there were three that came to mind for me. Streets of Rage 4, which I
Okay.
think was probably one, it was sort of, it's really the peak of the revitalization of the beat 'em up genre, and I happen to be a kind of a fan of those types of games, like River City Ransom. I have a lot of love for. Actually, Trash Turkey, just as one of our patrons, actually got to nominate a game for us to play this year, and he nominated. He said, "Hey, let's put River City Ransom under the microscope." So we're going to be revisiting that game. I may burn my one replay on whether or not beating that game. We'll see, or maybe I'll just play through it just for funs because it's a good time.
Yeah.
Um,
I've never actually beaten it.
oh, dude,
So
it's
that's gonna be a good time.
It's a
I've beaten one of the 3DS game that was basically River City Ransom, one of the sequels. It was another Kunio-kun game, and that one was a lot of fun. So I imagine I will really, and it's not that I haven't played River City Ransom, I just never finished it.
never beat it.
Yeah.
For shame on you, Josh.
So credits will roll.
Yeah, Streets of Rage 4, Dying Light, which I think we both had a fairly high opinion of, and I think is an interesting. There's a lot of sort of interesting thoughts and maybe conversation that we had around that. And does this belong on the list or not? And then Baldur's Gate, we played through, and that was a game that we both, I think, were sort of like surprised by, and how much we sort of did enjoy it, to a certain extent. Now, so let's just start with the maybes, because I think like we can basically determine whether or not we're going to put something on the game. Let's just start with Baldur's Gate. And you and I had a little bit of a conversation about this. I honestly think that, I mean, even Paul's words himself were, if he really believes that like you should probably play Baldur's Gate. He's like, but Baldur's Gate 2 is a better game. And I do believe, I thought I saw it on here somewhere. And
yes, it's Baldur's Gate 2 is on there.
And now I'm looking for it.
It's number 45. No, well, 44 maybe. Sorry, because I do have some of the potential placements on there. But
yeah. So it's number 44 on the list that I'm looking at right now.
Awesome.
And this is just my suggestion, is that Baldur's Gate 2, since it is the better game, sort of like just leave it at 44, and just like Baldur's Gate, while it was enjoyable, I think that there's sort of like, if there's a better sort of option for that game, it's like one of those games where like, I'm glad I played it, but like I said, I'm willing to just leave Baldur's Gate 2 as a sort of stand-in for all the CRPGs, especially of that, like the Neverwinter, until we sort of start going through some of that stuff to clean some of it out. That's just my personal opinion. What do you think here, buddy?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an argument to be made that, since we actually played Baldur's Gate, that maybe that one should be there. I'm not, but you're right. I'm not gonna be a stickler, because I have also heard that Baldur's Gate 2 is a much better game from pretty much everywhere, and it's very renowned as one of the best CRPGs. Now, there are lots of modern CRPGs that I've heard are really good. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but we did have, actually, in the first draft of this list, Divinity. That's what it's called.
Divinity Original Sin.
Yep. Right, not Divine Divinity. That's an older one. But Divinity Original Sin is one of the, I guess, spiritual sequel, I think.
And well, Baldur's Gate 3 is, I think, in early access right now. Eventually that'll come out. And there's a pile of these, like the Divinity games, of the Pillars of Eternity stuff.
Right. Yep. Heard that one. That one's another one.
And this is like a genre that we might sort of dip our toes in from time to time.
Right. Yeah, but for right now, I don't mind leaving it. Also, I kind of feel like it's a toss up. I wouldn't mind going back to the original if you felt strongly about it, but if you want to keep 2, then that's totally fine. I will say, and I know this sounds weird after just playing 1, I think it should be lower on the list, just based on some of the games that I really love on the list that are lower than it. that seems inexplicable to me. just as we go through the list again. But I mean, there are a few on the list that I'm like, huh, how did that get so high? Case in point, something like Animal Crossing, which I think is great for I think it's a great game. But I also don't think it's like 65 seems high. I would put it towards the bottom. As a game like, yeah, you should play it, but it's not one of my absolute favorites.
Well, I mean, it's
Um,
like you sort of have like almost like it's like, okay, so it's like top half, bottom half. Is this a top
right.
half game or is this a
Yeah.
bottom half?
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Baldur's Gate 2 as kind of the lower end of the top half. I would put it in the bottom half, personally, but that's just me.
well,
Um,
I think for now I'm just content to sort of leave it where it's at and sort of wait
okay.
until we have some of the other stuff. And if we want to move it later, we can sort of like, we can bump it around a little bit. Like,
Okay.
I mean, like based off of just Baldur's Gate, I would
Mhm.
probably, put Baldur's Gate 2 like as the stand-in. I would probably
Mhm.
put that actually down probably right where Animal Crossing New Horizons is. Like I would probably put that
Yeah.
down in the mid 60s.
Yes.
That's just me. Let's see.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's weird to be looking at the list and seeing like Metroid Prime and Dragon Quest 8 like right above where Animal Crossing is
yeah,
when there are
I
a few
mean,
others. Even like StarCraft.
sometimes it's just like the method to this madness is even to the guys who are sort of crafting this and putting this together,
Mhm.
it seems like a little. Sometimes we have to remember things are just there as placeholders, and we just sort of like stuck things, and we're just like, this seems like a good place. Because,
Yeah.
but um, well,
Mhm.
so like let's put a pin on that one, and we'll move on to Dying Light. We both played it. Both, I think I don't think I know I probably liked it a lot more than you did. Um,
Mhm.
but and it's one of those games that we sort of like I don't know that I'm necessarily done with Dying Light. Like I've still sort of
Mhm.
screwed around with it. It's kind of become one of those games that like um it started out as sort of our Spooktober game, and then because there's
Mhm.
just a bunch there's that game's big, almost
Yeah.
prohibitively so. Um but it's like there's some really cool things that it does. Like and I
Mhm.
really like it a lot. And there's a part of me that says I think it belongs somewhere on this list. Definitely like bottom half, but I don't know what I would yank out in order to
Yeah.
throw this game in here. I mean,
Yeah.
uh
That's the question to me is because you're right. I like on its face, is this a top 100 game? No, I don't think so. Um, but if you find something in here that like, oh yeah, it beats out this one,
I
then
mean, it's comparable
you
to
might be able to
me to
persuade
like
me.
maybe like because the way that I played it was primarily sort of co-op.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
that's pretty awesome.
when I'm looking at it, right? I'm looking at it and I'm sort of looking for co-op experiences and what the,
Yeah, I
stupid.
don't know that we have many of those.
We have a few, and I'd actually probably like to, and that's part of it is I'd probably like to seed some of this with a little bit more. Um,
Mhm.
but like
Like Destiny 2.
yeah, that's actually I was looking at it and it's like if we popped it out, I haven't played Destiny 2. I'm sort of it's like one of those games I've been meaning to get around to it just to check it out. But honestly, I
Mhm.
think Dying Light sort of bumping Destiny 2 might not be a bad call. Puts it in the
Okay.
bottom half of the list. It's and I think it like the thing is like here's the thing. Dying Light one I think like it's sort of an interesting the parkour simulation sort of and like there's a bunch of really interesting mechanics that sort of make that game special. But then the horror element of like the night cycles and being chased by the
Yeah.
volatiles and everything else, like that right there is some standout stuff. And
Hmm.
but yeah, I don't think this breaks the top half per se, but yeah, it's definitely in the bottom half. I'm kind of looking at, I mean, right now, like I'm seeing Neo at 70, which is sort of co-op-y.
Hmm.
Frankly, I don't want to see that go anywhere because I like Neo a
Yeah.
lot. And actually, I think at some point in time, I'd like to replace Neo with Neo 2. But until
Okay.
I'm done with that, uh, I mean, I'm just looking at stuff here. Um, this sort of, oh, adjusting my mic. Hopefully that
Hmm.
doesn't make too much. I'm just looking at the list here and just
Hmm.
trying to see if there's any. I mean, there's stuff that I'm just like I'm not quite super comfortable dropping off. Oh man, like actually, you know what popped up? I kind of looked at it and I'm like, I mean, I'd like to see it higher than that. But Dragon Warrior, the original old school Dragon Warrior,
Ooh.
maybe. I don't know. I honestly, you know what? The more I look at it, I think like Destiny 2 is probably like a good spot to maybe just like drop
Hmm.
Destiny 2 and slide Dying Light into that.
Okay, here's another one. Just throwing it out there because I haven't played it, but I don't know how similar these games are. Far Cry 3, is that similar to Dying Light?
I mean, some of that is like Far Cry 3 is more of like this sort of the Ubisoft. Where's Far Cry 3? What space is that in?
58, I think,
Okay. I mean,
around that area.
yeah, 58. Yeah, that might not be a bad one. I think Far Cry, like the thing is, Far Cry 3 is really a great.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
I definitely.
Well, if
Hmm,
I was going to say, if you don't have a problem with Destiny 2, as I look at the list, like I have no affinity for Destiny 2 at all. I've
yeah.
never played a Destiny game. And just that model, I don't imagine I ever will play it. It's just
Well,
not my cup of tea.
especially since like Destiny 2 has gotten sort of like basically the way that they're doing it now, they're rotating content in and out. And from what I've
Okay.
understand, that the single player is probably they're actually rotating out content that makes this like sort of breaks up the single player experience. It used to be you used to
Okay.
like there was a single player campaign that you could sort of like
Right.
move through, and some of that content is getting shifted out. So yeah, I'd say Dying Light in for Destiny, like sort of booting Destiny 2 out. Um, that would be not a bad little swing there. That's yeah. Let's
Okay. Cool.
okay. Streets of Rage
Um,
4. You did not play this.
right.
I did. I really like it. I really think it's great. What I think is I'd like to encourage you to maybe look for an opportunity to pick this up and play through it,
Mhm.
because I think it's really great. And I think you'd have a great, there's a lot of things that it's got going for it. It's got great music. It looks really cool. There's actually some new DLC um, that I actually
Hmm.
picked up last year. I think it's like one of those games that was like, or pieces of content, which we should address that real briefly. There's been a bit of addendum to it's actually we missed sort of part of the beatdown rules in sort of
Mhm.
talking about DLC. Um,
Yeah.
the DLC for Streets of Rage 4 is like adds some levels and adds some characters. I think it technically adds a little bit of story. And so basically campaign DLC is treated the same as games, folks, for beatdown scoring. So if you buy it, you take the +1 for buying it, +1 for playing it.
Mhm.
Beating it and completing it would, also net you the -1 and then the additional -1. If it's gifted, you treat it like a gifted. So you take the point for the acquisition, but then you could score it out with beating it and completing it for a total of -1. Just
Mhm.
sort of like basically, if it's cosmetic, don't worry about it. Like, but
Yeah.
what I think what I'd like to see, like, there's some stuff in here where I'm like, maybe, but kind of I think what I'd like you to maybe, like, if we can sort of, if it goes on sale or something, or maybe it'll pop up
Mhm.
on like a PS Plus, I think you ought to check it out because it's kind of short, it's kind of sweet. It can be sort of an interesting little co-op experience. Actually, I've beaten the game
Mhm.
with Megan, and then I beat it again with Parker.
Nice.
Um, and I just think it's fun. It's fun. It's pretty accessible. It's a good time. It's like one of those games that you can sort of beat in a sitting or two, and it's fun.
Okay.
It sort of takes me back to like almost like the arcade co-op kind of stuff. Um,
Mhm.
I don't want to just sort of force this thing in here. I'd rather just us sort of have a conversation after you get a chance to play it, and maybe you sort of pin it on here somewhere. But I do think it needs
Okay.
to sort of be like in a, maybe like an honorable mention, sort of like we're not sure what to do with this thing yet.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
Okay.
So
Yeah. No, I mean, I've heard nothing but good things about it. I do like beat 'em ups. Just played through a bunch of them, the bunch of old ones, old arcadey ones. So I'm down to play it for sure.
it's, dude.
Uh,
Well, one, it's gorgeous. Like everything has that hand drawn sort of like animation. It's like really,
mhm.
really cool art. M- the music's great. So
Nice,
yeah.
nice,
But yeah. So there's
cool.
that.
The only other ones that I'd like to address before we go to kind of our big three is one, my game of the year last year was Shin Megami Tensei 5.
Okay.
And while I love the game enough to have completed it, um, I'm not sure that it represents the Shin Megami Tensei series as well as what's currently on our list is Shin Megami Tensei 4. I do think that one is a bit more traditional while still having its own innovations. I think it's more indicative of the series as a whole than 5 is. 5, while I do think the combat in what they allow you to do, it's more not even necessarily streamlined, but they give you so many more options that are like readily available. Like you don't have to go crazy in order to kind of incorporate these different things, and then they require you to do it. So fantastic combat, but I think the heavy emphasis on exploration changes the game quite a bit, so it doesn't feel as much like a Shin Megami Tensei. Basically, if you've never played an SMT game before, I would recommend 4 over 5 just because 4 is more indicative of the series as a whole. And that's why, yeah. So those are my thoughts on why 4. I would say leave 4 on the list over 5. It's not that I don't want Shin Megami Tensei 5 on the list of top 100 games. It's not that. It's that, well, I think we already have a number of at least the Megami Tensei games on the list. So we don't necessarily need any more. And then if it were like, okay, if you were to pick one for someone to try out, I think I would recommend 4 for someone to try before you go into any others.
Well, it's something when you sort of initially sort of ran this by me, I said, well,
Mm-hmm.
I think a sort of legitimate sort of positioning here is like, if you're going to talk about like it radically changes, it substantially changes enough of the game to sort of feel like a radically
Mm-hmm.
different. It's like we actually have a game that did that we both like, and I came to sort of grudgingly, but Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is basically a
Mm-hmm.
reinvention of that franchise. And and it's parked pretty high. And I think
Mm-hmm.
sometimes the question is it better? I mean, like, I know in some ways it's like, is SMT 4 the more like the one that like maybe people should start with. But I think sometimes the question is like, sometimes what's the best one? Like,
Yeah.
is SMT5 better than 4? And if I think the answer, and there's a part of me just as a little bit of pushback here, is if you
Yeah.
think that SMT5 is better than 4, and I think that's a strong enough argument that, like, and again, I don't have a dog in this fight. I haven't played SMT5, probably not going to, because it's big, and I have like Returnal is like sucking up all the oxygen in my room right now. But I'm just saying, like, I think there's a bit of an argument there to be made.
Yeah. Yeah, and I understand that, and honestly, I'm not sure because it's been so long since I've played 4. I do have very fond like yeah, the Shin Megami Tensei 5 definitely sucked me in again to the point where I completed the game. I was not expecting that when I first purchased it. So yeah, it definitely it is a very special game, and I very much enjoyed it. I remember 4 sucking me in as well, although I didn't. I only went through a single ending with that game, and there are, I think, 4 different. I could be wrong. I don't remember how many endings were in 4. So so it's hard to say just because I'm so far from when I first played that one years ago, because that was, and it's a different experience because that was my first Shin Megami Tensei game. So I guess here's the subjective nature of this, is that I would have to replay 4 to really decide, is 4 better or is 5 better.
Well, and again, I'll sort of like yield to you on this because I have no experience or expertise in either one of those. Like, it's like, this is sort of a series that for the most part, I remain pretty just, I don't have a ton of experience or opinions on it. So I just kind of like,
Yeah.
if you think 4 should sort of take the place, I'm like, okay, that's fine. It's not gonna, give me 1 second, dude. Like, I have the bladder of a small child right now. So be right back.
Cool. I liked that sound as he got up. That was nice. That was nice. Yeah. So in terms of SMT, I haven't played the first 2 because those were on Super Nintendo. 3 was the one on PlayStation 2, Nocturne, and then 4 is on 3DS, and then 5 just came out for Switch. So out of the 3 that I've played, 3, 4, and 5, that's funny because that's kind of the same deal with Persona, although 2 is split up into 2 games, and I haven't played either of those. I haven't played the first one, but I played 3, 4, and 5. Very different feelings about about them there, just because 3 is my clear favorite of Persona, and then 5, and then 4. In terms of Shin Megami Tensei, like mainline, like proper, that's a good question. They all do things so well. I was going to say so differently, although I think 3 and 5 are much more alike to each other. 5 does kind of feel like a spiritual sequel to 3, whereas 4 does something different. I guess that's story wise, but yeah, just talking more Shin Megami Tensei weirdness.
Yeah.
So
what's your ultimate decision there? Just to leave 4?
For right now, and maybe this is just too cautious of me because I don't want it just to be out of recency bias. I'm going to leave 4 on there for now. Maybe when we pick this up halfway through the year,
sort of
maybe 5 will
maybe
solidify its place. We'll see.
Uh-oh.
Froze on me. Okay, so we got it back. Weirdness, whatever that was. So sorry for all the awkward sounds. Connection issues.
Sorry, not sorry. Sorry, not sorry.
A.
What's that all about? So you
Exactly.
so SMT5
Yeah.
is sort of
Yeah.
like we'll put a pin in that one for
Hold.
maybe the
Yep.
mid-year sort of refresh.
Yeah.
What else you got? You said you had a couple of sort of
Well,
like
yeah, the only other thing is just how much I'm enjoying Final Fantasy IX. I feel like it does belong on the list.
Mhm.
Just gonna throw it out there. You can shoot it down. I would replace Final Fantasy IV with Final Fantasy IX. That's just me. That's just me.
Man,
Because we've got 6 up there, pretty
that's a
high.
take, dude. There might be some people we might be dealing with anarchy
Well,
if we,
right.
uh,
I mean,
just
but they
full
also
scale revolt.
they've heard my. I mean, when I tried to take 4 out completely, there was that. So I would,
Well,
yeah,
I mean,
I enjoy 9 more than 4. Just that's just me. So
here's what I would recommend for now. Wait
okay,
until after we do the book club episode. We'll put a
okay,
pin in
okay,
this
yeah,
thing. And then
yeah,
this is another one that we'll put a pin in. And sort of when we do the mid-year in June, July, when we do the mid-year sort of revisit, sort of an
yeah,
adjustment, and maybe it'll make it,
yeah.
maybe it won't.
I
Um,
agree. I agree. Because that now that you're talking, now that you're mentioning, like this is a book club game. Let's all get together and talk about it. I feel like it would be dishonoring to everyone in the book club if we threw it up here before we
yeah,
even like had that
yeah.
conversation. So I agree. I agree. Let's put a pin on it. Cool.
Put a pin in
Cool.
it. All right.
Yeah, those are the only other 2 that stuck out to me outside of Doki Doki Pit. No, I'm just kidding.
Doki
Not that one.
Doki Literature Club.
No,
I think we even talked about it
that
when
was a
it's
joke.
like
Yeah.
it's like one of those. It's a really cool game, does some interesting things, but ultimately, I think narratively, it just kind of goes, wah, like, yeah,
Mhm.
I guess, like, um,
Yeah.
so, uh, so that leaves us with what
Top
remains of
3.
Edith Finch,
Yep.
Near Automata, and Control.
Mhm.
All right,
Mhm.
so let me pull up our list here. I'm just gonna do this to make it easier
Mhm.
to sort of navigate this. So let's just start with what we got. What remains of Edith Finch? I think we
Mhm.
both agree that it belongs somewhere on here. Where does it belong? What does it replace? And is it top? Well, let's just start top half, bottom half.
Oh, man. Okay, okay. So even that, I mean, part of me, just because it's a short little game, just because like it feels a little transient. I really enjoy what it says, but I would go bottom half.
Okay.
That's
I
just
mean,
me.
I'm not gonna push too hard on that, but
Mhm.
what drops out because of it?
Yeah,
Um,
that's the question. That's the question. Like I feel like the easy answer is the Stanley Parable because it's also a very narrative, well, walking sim kind of type of game. Um, I do really like the Stanley Parable though, but Edith Finch is deeper. I think yeah. So yes, I do think that Edith Finch is the better game out of the 2. I just don't want to discount offhand the Stanley Parable.
I've never
Um,
played the Stanley Parable, so
mhm.
I that's something where it's like I'm like when it comes to something like that, like that's I'm just sort of looking here.
Yeah, yeah. I would say then that that would be like the fallback if we can't find anything else. I'd say replace Stanley Parable with it.
I'm
With the
sort
still
of
like feel like you should
yeah.
play Stanley Parable, but yeah. Um,
I'm sort of looking at
Here's
some
another one. And this is not a shot at Trash Turkey, but I've still just not played Bionic Commando Rearmed.
mhm.
And so yeah, I think we should play it and put it back on here, but that's another one that I would say take out.
I
Maybe Edith
actually
Finch could
sort of
replace
when
it.
we were kind of like just sort of scanning the list, that was one of the ones that stuck out to me, and for pretty much the same reasons. I haven't played it. I've heard it's really great on a lot of levels. What I propose, is that, What Remains of Edith Finch becomes the new 73. Bionic Commando sort of gets added to that list of like things to put a pin in. And then we'll try to make it a point to revisit that game somewhere in nearest future to see if it actually belongs on here or not.
Yeah. I'm down. And that one's a short game too. I believe that it's only like 5 hours according to how long to beat. So we should play that one. But yeah, I think that's an easy little slide in there for me. And again, no shots fired. It's just that I haven't played it. It's so I am naive, and so because of that, I'm kind of resident evil. I'm reticent to put it on here, or at least to keep it on here. Just because of my unfamiliarity with it in general. So, okay, cool. Right. We'll do that. Swap that one out. So we got 2 down or 1 down.
I think that was honestly probably our easiest one because both of the next two get a little more complicated. Let's just, in the order I have it written down, let's just look at Nier Automata.
Okay.
We talked with Micah the other episode sort of about this. He pushed for like top half, and he said it cracks one of his probably. I don't know if he said top 10, but I don't disagree with him that this thing punches pretty heavy. I'm sort of.
I would say top 25.
Yeah, 25. Okay, so that's
what I would say.
Ballpark. So if you put it in the top 25, looking at it here, does it bump something and or do we bump something in the top 25 and sort of drop that out, or do we sort of bump it in there and then sort of just drop out like Skyrim? And I think that's sort of the question.
I would definitely lean towards that just because I don't want to take anything like. I think our top 25 is pretty solid. Again, not throwing shade on anyone at all. I wouldn't put Metal Gear Solid quite as high as we have it just personally. But that doesn't mean that I would say take it off the list. Like these games are here for a reason. And so I would say that like none of these deserve to be kicked out. Even like Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. But I don't think it deserves to be kicked out.
Let me
lower on the list, sure. But
I think honestly, Nier Automata comes in at 25, and we just Skyrim drops out. I think.
Okay.
I don't have any problems putting Nier Automata above Super Mario 3D World, just because. Yeah. Astrobot Rescue Mission, like I said, I haven't played that, but I'm actually going to be getting around to that sometime. And I think that's sort of I'm just saying like, that's my initial sort of take that I think what ought to happen is Nier Automata sort of just bumps Super Mario 3D World down to 26. And Skyrim drops out. But
then let's bump it above Astrobot just because neither of us have played Astrobot. And we have played Nier Automata. I know I'm arguing over one spot here, but I don't see why we should put a game that neither of us have played that we've only heard is really good. Above a game that we've both played.
Honestly, at the top 25, it's kind of like, and after I play Astrobot, maybe it'll be one of those things where I come back and be like, absolutely not.
Yes.
Like,
if it's as good as we've both heard, then you will have an argument.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you can totally bring it up and be like, no, like this really is everything. So, yeah.
Okay.
That's my argument. One space higher.
But I don't have a problem with that per se. I just, so that all right. All right. That leaves Control. And this one, so here's I like Control a lot. I think it's arguably
you platinum it.
probably honestly, it's sort of Control probably breaks my personal top 10, 15.
Okay.
Because I have very similar feelings to it. The way, like, I kind of feel the same way about it that I do Doom 2016.
Okay.
I just don't know, like, but I don't know, like, honestly, it's kind of like one of those things where I'm sort of,
As I'm going down the list here, I'm gonna just shout out some because either they're games that I haven't played
I'm
or
saying
that
Doom 2016 right now at the list I'm looking at it would be in slot 27. Okay. Like, well, we have Doom in there, but that's a stand-in for Doom 2016.
Yeah.
I would say just put it right underneath there, above Final Fantasy IV, and drop out World of Warcraft.
Okay. You know, I don't have much of an issue with that. Well, it does feel pretty high to me.
It feels high to me too, and I'm sort of looking at it because I liked it a lot. But
what do you think about number around the 40s? There's Dishonored 2. I just haven't played it. I've heard it's good. I just haven't played it. And why? I feel like Dead Space should jump up higher.
Dead Space feels like really low too. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I feel like thinking about Control, I think like 30s, somewhere in the 30s. And Dead Space is just like, dude, I don't know why it is down there so far.
Yeah, can we swap that with Fallout? Like just right now?
I was gonna say, why don't we put Dead Space at 25 and bump Astrobot down one more.
Okay.
And then that I don't know how that got down there so low. It's one of those things, like, sometimes it's like it's just like
it just gets lost. Yeah.
I'm kind of looking at, honestly, where I think Control sort of belongs right below Horizon Zero Dawn.
Okay. Is it better than Mario Kart 8 though? No, I'm kidding. It's fine.
Yeah. It's fine. Baby Mario can go die in a trash fire.
Yeah, apparently.
I don't know if you saw the Discord comment where it said, like, he was like, best comment from last episode. Baby Mario can go die.
I got that reference. Okay, yeah, that works. Right under Horizon. Control. Yeah. That feels good. Feels good. And then Dead Space jumping up to so numbers will be a little bit wonky right now.
Yeah.
But I do think that's pretty solid. So
do you have like an updated thing here in Google Docs?
I haven't edited it myself. I'm just looking at it. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well. Oh man, because like some of
trying to do everything.
It's actually so much easier to just drop things out. Because now we have to fix all the. If we just did this in like a spreadsheet thing, it would automatically. Yeah, we probably need to just put it back in an Excel sheet.
More sense.
We need to do that at some point in time.
But yeah.
Yeah. No, but I'm good with that. I mean, we did already list off all the games that are on there. I don't think we necessarily have to go through
Yeah, we
everything
don't
over
have to
again.
go back in.
Um,
So what are the changes that we're making again? Just Baldur's Gate, nothing. Dying Light. Where did we put Dying Light?
we're swapping it out for
Replacing.
Destiny 2.
Okay. Streets of Rage 4, that's got a pin.
Mhm.
Final Fantasy 9 has a pin. What was the other one that you brought up there? Shin Megami Tensei 5 has a
Yeah.
pin. Then What Remains of Edith Finch? What did we decide that's sort of
We were
kicking
swapping
up?
that out for Bionic Commando Rearmed.
Okay. Yep. And Bionic Commando Rearm gets a pin. Actually, let me
Right.
write that. I'm gonna actually just write this down on my little journaly thing. Sorry
Cool.
for the change in.
Oh, no.
All right, so let's just Baldur's Gate. That's nothing. Dying Light replaces Dying Light.
Destiny 2.
Replaces Destiny 2. Streets of Rage pin. Rage pin. SMT5 pin. Jeez, come on, brain, stop it!
Mhm.
Stop being crazy, brain. Final Fantasy 9 pin.
Mhm.
What Remains of Edith Finch bumps Bionic Commando Rearmed, and he gets a pin. Okay. Pin. Near Automata goes to spot 24.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Near Automata. 24.
Mhm. And then Control gets 25.
No, Dead Space gets 25.
Oh. Wait, okay. Then where
And
was... Oh, that's right. That's right. Control gets under
Control.
Horizon. That's right.
What spot would that put it? Well, we'll just say I'll just put under HCD because there will be some bumping around. All right. Cool. Cool. All right. All right, man. Well, I think that's hopefully the listeners will enjoy that, and we will update that. We'll do that sort of in an Excel sheet or whatever, and clean that all up and post that at some point in time somewhere. Twitter,
Yeah,
Discord.
I can publish the Google Doc and like just keep it a doc for now, and we can publish that, and the link for that will be in the description of the episode so that you can take a look at the list for yourself. It's funny, like even just talking, obviously there are some things that like, maybe we should like shift some of these things around. Today we were primarily concerned with adding some things, changing. Obviously there were some changes that were made as well, but I mean, like based on the games that we played over the past year and things like that. But hey, I mean, the list is always kind of a work in progress, because we mentioned things like Animal Crossing that maybe we would both say, yeah, that should probably be lower on the list. So maybe a fuller, in depth kind of look at this, but we do take a look at this list at least once a year. We're looking forward to the halfway through this year, sometime in July, maybe looking at it again. We'll see about then. Maybe we can shore up some of these places. But I think we've done some good work for this evening. I like some of the corrections that we have made. Dead Space feels a lot better to
Well,
me.
and it's funny because like I imagine next time we come and we're looking at this, it's going to be one of those things where it's always going to be a really interesting little time skip because like when we do
Right.
like 6 months or a year from now, when we're looking at this thing again, we're gonna be like, why did we put that so high?
Yeah.
That was weird. Or it's like,
Yes.
why is that game so low? That's weird.
Mhm.
I mean, and sometimes it is just like the compromise. Like here's the thing. Any
Yes.
game that's on our top 100 list is a game that we think you ought to play, you
Yeah.
know, um, to a certain extent. But yeah, I feel pretty good about what we've accomplished tonight. It's
For sure.
yeah, I mean, the top 100 list it's sort of a vanity, and it's not sort of, it's a vanity project. It's like we did it. It's like we picked these games because we're I don't know, like I don't know what that was supposed to be, a snobby kind of accent, and it just kind of came out sounding a little something. Um, but yeah. Anyways, yeah, I feel pretty good about it. Like
Yeah.
like the correction of the Dead Space. Um, and we've got some stuff coming up over the course of this year. Like I said, Trash Turkey
Mhm.
nominated River City Ransom as a replay. Eric
Yeah.
Bryant as one of our patrons nominated Alan Wake, and we'll be rediscussing some
Right.
of the control stuff with him when we do that.
Yeah.
Um, so there's that. What was the last? Oh, Wesley. Okay, so folks,
Mhm. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
this one's going to be kind of tough. Okay, so we've talked about this game a little bit here and there. Mother 3, basically,
Mhm.
we Wesley nominated a that as his the Henshin Dad himself nominated Mother 3, which it gets a little complicated. So what
Mhm.
we've done to sort of like, and maybe this is just sort of like us sort of satisfying, like being like playing technical games to sort of satisfy our consciences. But you can actually create a Japanese, an Amazon Japan account and buy the digital Wii U code
Mhm.
to Mother
Yeah. The
3.
download code for Wii U for a Japanese Wii U on Amazon Japan. Yes.
Yeah. And so what we've done is we've used that and we've basically said that sort of satisfies some of the criteria where we have in a way obtained legal rights to have access to this material. And so
Mhm.
now, as far as like the emulation versus like, I have a reprogram cart, but apparently Paul says like his
Mhm.
was pretty janky with some of the
Jank.
music,
Yeah.
or um we'll see. Like because I bought mine from the same thing, and so if it's like this,
Mhm.
I bought it from Alibaba. So if it's the same thing at that point in time, I'm going to probably look at other options. I think Wesley's actually he's playing it on a DSI, which when he explained that, he's like the DSI, he's like basically he just loaded it onto a flash card and
Yeah.
loaded the flash card or whatever into the DSI. And then I was like, oh, I kind of want to hunt down a DSI and do that instead. Um, because I
Yeah.
really did like the DSI. I like the
Okay.
original DS a lot, and the DSI I
Mhm.
thought was a great little system.
I
So I
think
don't
I
know.
have a pink DSI.
I
I
don't
think.
know what I'm gonna do. I might try and hunt down a working DSI and just do that. So we're gonna be doing that. That is obviously so that one's kind of it's an interesting, again, it's sort of like, are we sort of maybe like being like a little bit of a workaround? Well, maybe, but I think, like I said,
Mhm.
I feel like that honors the
We're paying the rights holders
yeah, we're paying the rights
for the
holders
game.
for
I
access
mean,
to the data. And
mhm.
so at this point in time, I don't feel terrible about sort of finding workarounds so that I can actually play the thing that I bought. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean
Yep.
that's
Yeah. And I think I've been consistent in the emulation episodes that we've had. That's kind of like where I draw the line. Is like if it's being sold somewhere, then I need to spend the money.
Yeah.
Regardless of who owns like the rights for it right now and whether or not that's the people who originally made it. Like, no, if they own the rights, then I should be paying them to play the game, and then from there, yeah, I get. Is it like 100% illegal, or excuse me, legal? Well, no, and we've had that conversation because of the ambiguity of the laws. I'll put it that
Well,
way. Is
and
it
just
illegal? I also say no. It's not illegal, but it's not necessarily legal. Like it's in a gray area because it hasn't ever been ironed out
I think
intentionally.
I think what we yeah, I think like the thing is it's never been tested because I think it's just one of those things nobody
They
really
don't want
wants
to
to
set a precedent.
they don't want to know how this thing's going to work out. Nintendo just wants to be
Right.
able to scare people into doing what they want them to.
Yeah,
And
exactly. Exactly.
uh
They don't
no,
want to take the risk.
so I think it's like I like I said, I would just sort of say I believe that we are fulfilling our moral obligation to be able to sort of like try and play this game,
Mhm.
in as much as like so how that ends up all sort of working out, panning out, well, we'll go from there. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
so I
Cool.
think that's all of the confirmed nominations and
Mhm.
patron picks that we have so far. Uh have to sort of like and yeah, but and again I know we sort of plugged the Patreon before, but that is one of the perks is that patrons get to
Mhm.
nominate again. Actually, Mark, uh just
Mhm.
I don't have a great nickname for him yet. You and Alex are
Mhm.
both going to get nicknames, Mark.
It
I
will
just
happen.
I give me time. This is a thing that I do. Um, he actually sort of, I do remember him nominating Dragon Quest 11. I don't know if it was like a hard nomination or if he
Okay.
was just like, it was like sort of like,
Yeah. Shall
but
see.
yeah, I'm not opposed to that. That would actually give me some extra incentive to play that. I've been meaning to do that for a while, anyways. So there's that. But yeah, so
Mhm.
yeah, I think Josh, we've kind of done what we set out to do tonight. Hopefully, the listeners enjoyed this conversation, um,
Yeah.
and enjoyed, And again, yes, we know that this bit is a vanity project, but we liked it. We had fun. Um, it is our
Yeah.
podcast after all. So if we do little things like this from time to time,
So,
yeah.
and
So
if
yeah,
you absolutely hate it when we do stuff like that, let us know. There's tons of ways you can do that on Twitter. Our handle is at @bbdowncast. You can email us at the backlog@gmail.com. We've got the Facebook group, the hashtag backlog book club, and then we also have a Discord server. Link for that is in the description. Or if you want to reach out personally, I generally go by Broccolope online, and Nate goes by.
I am Nate_McKeever on most social media platforms, and even
Yeah.
on most game stuff. Like I think so. I have a Microsoft uh, account. It's set up through my
Okay.
PC, my laptop. It's
Yep.
uh, I was actually playing Ori on my laptop for a while before it came
Nice.
out on Switch. I got that through the Microsoft Game Store. But it's Nate_McKeever there. I'm pretty much Nate underscore like and not spelled out, but the actual symbol underscore
Mhm.
McKeever
Mhm.
pretty much everywhere with a few exceptions. But yeah. Um
Awesome.
yeah, I'm super on brand, buddy. Super on brand. Um
Sticking to it. I
And
like it.
and I briefly mentioned it, and I know that we gave him a bit of a shout out in the Patreon or the
Mhm.
Brochacho feed, but we'd like to sort of issue a hail and hearty welcome to Alex
Mhm.
Castellanos. Alex, welcome to the Brochachos, man. We're glad to have you aboard, and yeah, thanks so much for your vote of confidence and the
Yeah.
love. Um, but Yeah, like so. Did you have any? Geez, wow, Discord shout outs.
Community shout outs. No, I don't think so. Nothing comes to mind. Dang it.
Failure.
Dang it.
You've disappointed me for the last time, Broccolo.
Commander.
Yeah, I don't really have, aside from welcoming Alex. We've had a few guys sort of join, but yeah, it's well, you know what I would say, a little bit of it. We had a guy who actually just joined the Discord. He's participating in this year's Backlog Beatdown, and he's actually the one who pointed out the DLC omission, where
That's
that
right.
had been part of the rules. And I want to give credit where credit is due. 1 second. Oh, dude, I do have a bit of a shout out.
Okay.
But JDM the Great joined our Discord just recently, and yesterday it looks like, and he pointed out that we didn't have any in the rules. We didn't have anything about the DLC. So thank you, sir, for pointing that out. The other one is like, it is just such a shame that somebody gifted James, old KJVO, all them video games, and he's got to take all them +1s. I can't believe that somebody would be so discourteous to give you all those video games for free.
It's a shame. It's a shame. What was it? 22, 23 games? Something like that?
It was a pile.
Yeah. Well, and to add insult to injury, there were some that were just empty cases. They weren't even games.
No,
So,
that part is like actually legitimately pretty bitter. Like those, you don't have to take +1s for those ones, buddy.
No, you don't. You don't.
But I mean, I remember when we were sort of talking about the addition to the acquisition role, and we're like, and it was like, and we sort of made this like snide comment. It was like, oh, poor you. Somebody gives you a bunch of free video games, and then actually,
and then it happens like a week or two later.
Poor James, or Jacob.
Jacob.
Geez.
So sorry.
So my brain worked real good, buddy. Sorry. But yeah, Jacob just got, because I call him KJVO. And so I'm thinking King James version only, but it's really King Jacob Van Ols.
King Jacob. Yeah. Gotcha.
Jacob. But
I like it.
KJVO. Yeah, dude. Yeah. I mean, sorry, not sorry, bud. Actually, and since you are very Canadian, sorry, not sorry. But oh man. Anyways, before I just sort of like insert my mouth any further, or insert my foot any further into my mouth, I think we need to just call her a night. We did what we came here to do. We had a heck of a time doing it. We love you guys. Thanks so much for hanging out. And until next time, Josh, we've done what we came here to do. What should they do?
Yep. Guys, keep beating down your backlogs, and we'll keep breaking down the benefits.
That sounds about right.
I don't know why I sounded like Oprah. That was weird.
Oh no, it was fun. It was like,
you get a benefit, and you get a benefit, and you get a benefit.
Check under your seats. There's benefits for everyone. Oh boy. All right, buddy.
Wow, that was a thing. Yeah, it's late, especially for you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sleeping in tomorrow, so
okay, sweet. That's right.
I have off tomorrow.
Awesome.
I have a haircut at noon. I have lunch with my buddy, with Ty from church. He's coming over. We're gonna grab some Chinese and just hang out for a little bit. Let him get to know me a little bit more. Just I'm trying to, and then I was gonna go over to Jack's early in the morning. Actually, I think Megan and I might be getting new phones tomorrow.
Okay.
There's a deal at Verizon right now. You can, with a qualified trade-in, you can get a free 13 mini or whatever they call them. Like, and it's you can get a buy one get one. So you can buy one 13 mini for cash, and then you get a free one.
Okay. Gotcha.
And I think that also requires us to upgrade to the unlimited data plan, which we're not like 100% sold on, but we've been like
Yeah.
the last couple of months we've gone over, and it's just like I'd almost rather pay
Gotcha.
more for. I wouldn't mind paying a little bit more just to make sure that I'm not getting whacked with overage charges.
Mhm.
Because it's just like, I mean, we could just be smarter about how we use our data. But I honestly, if we get the unlimited plan, I'll probably just turn a lot of streaming and stuff on, and I'll just, you
Yeah.
know, I'll just be like, like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's what happened when we moved to the unlimited. We're with AT&T, but it was probably about a year ago or so that like it was when my sister wanted to get a new phone, and it was like you could get a huge discount if we went unlimited, and it actually ended up like I think it ended up saving us a little bit of money every month because of the grandfathered plan that we were on. And yeah, that's it. Immediately what happened is like, oh, well, now I'll just have data on all the time. Like,
yeah,
I don't even have to worry about it. And it wasn't necessarily that we were going over. It was just like, oh, unlimited is actually a little bit of a better deal. And so yeah, totally. Now I like don't even think about it. Like I would I'm in the habit of like downloading the books, the audiobooks and stuff
mm-hmm.
before so that I'm not always streaming it. So
But yeah,
occasionally I'll still
I
do
think
that.
it's going to
Now
be
it's
just
just like,
like I'm just gonna like. I mean, I'll download them still, but it's like it's gonna be
mhm.
like just stream it. Don't care.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, because I mean, like I'm always like, and it's like even with podcasts, I don't have to worry about checking my downloaded list. I mean,
Right.
I
Yep.
do use my downloaded list to sort of be a bit of a buffer. Like,
Hmm.
it's like, well, if it's not downloaded, I'm not that interested in it. Like,
Yeah.
you
Hmm.
know, but
Yep.
all right, dude. Yeah, I feel pretty good about that one. That was a good one. And then I need to reach out to Charles to make sure that he's still game for 2 weeks from now.
Cool.
And yeah.
Cool. That's the 24th, right?
Yeah, I think yes.
Okay. Okay. Because it's that Monday. Um, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
No, it should be totally fine. I
Yes.
did the stitches that are in my mouth are going to be taken out that morning, but that should be totally fine. Like that
Okay.
shouldn't be a problem.
You didn't
It's
get
just
like
taking them out.
they didn't do like the ones that just like fall out after a while.
Mm-mm.
Oh,
Nope.
dude. I mean, I've had stitches removed. It is gnarly. Like,
Is it?
because
Okay.
it's like, because it doesn't hurt.
Interesting. Uh-huh.
It's like stitches in my face or on my hand, right? I didn't
Yeah.
have like the
Yeah.
gut, like the ones that just rot out or fall out or
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
whatever they do after like a week or two.
Yeah.
And they had to pull them out, and it didn't hurt. It felt
Mm-hmm.
weird because there's
Gotcha.
this thing under, like it was like in my hand.
Right.
And it
Yeah.
was like they're just like tugging these
Pulling
stitches
it
out, and
through.
I'm like,
Whew. Yeah.
I was like, that
It does seem kind of strange.
feels kind of like not entirely pleasant, but not awful.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like this
Yeah.
feels like should not be.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Exactly.
No, and in a way,
Um,
it's like it should not be. Like you should
right.
not have to stitch up a giant hole in your head or face or mouth or hand.
Yeah.
It's like, but yeah,
Yeah.
dude. All
But
right.
I don't anticipate that causing any kind of a
Well,
problem. Like especially with how quickly this is healed. Like
okay, and just to
yeah.
sort of let you know, do you know who Josh Loftus is?
Yes, from TRG. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And he does the Reformatory podcast, and then he does the Cluckcast with Ted
Okay.
Cluck now. Um, he's just like a guy that I've sort of
Oh.
like I've gotten to know a little bit on Facebook, and I think I'm
Okay.
going to reach out to him just see if he wants to hop on sometime because I think it'd be kind of cool. Mostly, I don't know if he really plays a lot of games or not, but I
Okay.
know he's really big on sort of like. No, and he's a 1689 guy, so you two will just get along swimmingly, even though, um, but he does like a lot of his stuff is really about sort of like the local church. Like
Okay.
the reformatory podcast, a lot of their emphasis is like encouraging people to like love their local church and be active members in their local church and stuff like that. It's been a while since I listened to any of that, but I think I might reach out to Josh and just see if he's interested in hopping on the mics at some point in time. He's one of the guests that I've thought about like reaching out to. Of course, I'm going to try and
Okay.
probably maybe here in a few months, just reach out to Colin Moriarty again and just say, hey, and just like, I think the way I'm going to pitch it is like, listen, I think you offer a pretty unique insight into like your sort of this high level, sort of gaming critic, voice, whatever, but you also have
Mm-hmm.
a fairly like you believe in having a strong work ethic. You encourage the audience to work well, sort of play hard. And that's something similar to what we do here. And you pursue excellence. I'd love to have you just come on and have a conversation about maybe gamer culture and entitlement and sort of like the balance between working hard and playing well and things like that. And how and just see if like he bites on that. And if he
Okay.
doesn't, he doesn't, you know,
Right.
but if he does, I think it would be kind of a pretty interesting conversation, So,
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean, because he's coming from a more secular sort of, well, he's not a believer, so he's coming from a secular
Right.
perspective. So yeah, that's those are the two that I've sort of had in mind. I don't know if there's anybody else that's sort of like every once in a while. Well, but between them and Charles, I don't really have any other
Right.
super prevalent
Yeah.
guests. I mean, and we don't need to do guests all the time. And then we have guys like Micah and Paul and Wes who hop on the mics with us from time to time too. So,
Mm-hmm.
But all righty. Well, dude,
Cool.
I'm going to call her a night. I'm going to take out my contacts. I'm going to bring Nala back in because I put her back out, and I'm going to go to bed. And I'm going to sleep
All right.
for 6 to 7-ish hours.
I like it. Sounds like a plan.
Ballpark. All right, boyos. Dude, it's
Awesome.
been real. It's been great. It's been fun. It's been real great fun. So I'll catch
Yeah, it
it,
has.
dude. And okay, I know I keep saying I'm going to
Uh-oh.
go,
Another
but
big sigh.
you know what I think maybe we ought to do is some of the Patreon money. We ought to just sort of tuck away a little bit every year, and then
Mm-hmm.
Megan and I can plan out like, and you and I can sort of like long-term sort of Megan and I can just plan like that can go towards basically helping me get plane tickets down to
Mm-hmm.
you.
I like it.
I'm just saying like that may be a use for
I
the
like it.
money.
That would be pretty freaking sweet. Yeah, we were well, never mind. I won't even talk about it, but with the upcoming changes, it's like, oh, that frees us up to do stuff. But friends, like out of state friends, are like opposite sides of the country. This is crazy.
Yeah.
So,
dude, I still need to get that beer out to you.
oh,
It's
you
sitting,
don't
I think,
need to.
no, I need to, because if I don't, I'll drink it. And I bought some of it specifically to send to you. I think actually my plan is like, because I just want you to know I haven't forgotten about it. I think my plan is, like I said, at the end of the month, we're going out to my mom and dad's. While we're out
Mhm.
there, I'm going to swing into Trogs to see if they have any canned impending descent. If I can grab
Gotcha.
some of that, I'm going to throw that in with what I have. I'm going to like
Gotcha.
ship that all down to you. I think I'm just going to ship it all like UPS or whatever. I trust UPS more than I trust FedEx.
Okay.
I don't trust any of them perfectly, and I'll just send your games and the beer and whatever other goodies we manage to sort of smuggle in there, all in one box. And what I probably will do just to sort of is I'll probably seal your games in like a plastic Ziploc baggie or something,
Yeah.
just in
Yeah.
case one of the cans decides to go bonkers.
Mhm.
Which again, if it's handled appropriately, shouldn't happen. But
Fragile.
you never know. But
Right.
all right, dude. Yeah. All right, man.
Sweet.
Like I said, it's been real. It's been great. It's been fun. Real great fun. Good night, buddy.
Good night.